What is going on, people? Welcome to the On a Level podcast, episode 37. Today, we got the Slut Drop champion, Big Grills. How you doing? He was so confident, just yes.
Yeah. And I comfortably am holding that title. And I'd like to see you try and take it from me, man.
I'm just saying, if and when I'm over in Australia or Taz, even, I'm just saying, we'll have this competition.
Yeah, we'll set up an event around it, man. We'll do it at like the Melbourne Comics Lounge, and we'll have a slut drop competition. We'll get everyone involved.
Perfect. And that's it. People are paying like $50 just to see a slut drop competition, then go home. That's it. Just nothing else.
It's a good time, man. Slut drops are the key to happiness. They make people happy. You know, like if there's a bad time, have you ever done a slut drop at a funeral? It fucking lightens the mood.
You know what?
You know what I mean?
I didn't think of it like that.
Yeah, I was doing them in the middle of prison visits. Cunts loved it. You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
You gotta spice the day up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. So how's things been with you, man? How's things been leading up to the album dropping, Risdom Wisdom?
Oh, it's really good, man. Like, what the circumstances were was that I got all my life priorities out of the way, and I started recording the album in Tassie. It just wasn't happening, and I wasn't vibing with it. And I got a lot of crew over in Perth, and so I flew over to Perth for a week with Cortex, and we recorded the whole album in 3 days.
Oh, sick.
And Complete was in the middle of a tour as well. So, and I just did the Hobart show with him. So I ended up jumping on a couple of the shows in WA, and then I was like, fuck it. So I ended up jumping on some more shows and travelled up to Queensland. We did Cairns, Brisbane and Byron Bay, and then Corona hit and they cancelled my flights. So my plan was to like catch up with Golly and No One Network, plan to do some videos with them, fly them down to Tassie and do the videos for my album. But when Corona hit, Tasmania got shut down completely. Like they cancelled all my flights. Like if I was going to go back, I was going to have to quarantine in a hotel for 2 weeks, and that was the last thing I was going to do after the last year that I had. I was just like, fuck that. So I ended up just like staying in Brisbane for the last 3.5 months. Did all the videos with No One Network here, and because also my merchandise sponsor and my like the guys that I do all my merch through, they're based in Brisbane as well, so it works out cheaper for me to stay in Brisbane, release the album here, do all the videos here, and then once it's out of the way after July 1st I can head home.
Yeah, man. So do you feel like things naturally worked out then? Like it wasn't the initial plan, but by staying in Brisbane, by all these things falling into place, it helped with making the album?
Yeah, man. Apart from I did really want to film the videos in Tassie because it was really based around, a lot of the album's based around Tasmania, stories from my hometown, all that sort of shit. But, sometimes you have to make sacrifices. And I'm really happy with the outcome still, regardless. Like, it's all come together. No One Network have done an amazing job. Cortex has done an amazing job with the album. Rob Shaker produced it. He's in SBX crew with, like, Draft and Bit of Belief, and they're the OG kings of WA in the west side of the country. So I'm very honoured to have guys like that involved. They're guys I grew up looking up to, and then as well, yourself, I put a lot of time into No One Network and Golly and Nerve, those guys a few years ago. So it's very rewarding to come up here a few years later, and Golly has built his empire with No One Network, and now they're, helping me out with my stuff, and they're making it better than it's ever been, So it's, I can't personally complain about this, the pandemic and everything that's going on, because I'm very lucky to have a good network and a lot of good friends through the scene that looked after me and made it still happen.
Yeah, man, that's amazing. It's so important. I say it time and time again to a bunch of different people, how important it is to have a good team around you, having the right people around you to help and, help work on your craft. And then obviously that's that give and take. Obviously, whether you've done favors for them or whether you've helped them with their platform previously and it comes back round vice versa, I feel like it's such an important thing to have the right people around and know the right people, and No One Network. I've never heard a person speak badly or anything negative upon No One Network or anyone affiliated with them.
They've built a really positive network. It's about the culture, and they've gone from a bunch of kids that are passionate and they're growing into a very professional business, and they're providing some of the highest standard quality product in the country when it comes to what we do and what we love. So they've got my support, man, and I'm grateful to have their support as well. I think they're going to go very far. In my time of being around Australian hip hop, I've watched a lot of people come and go, but these guys I definitely know are in for the long run, and it'll be crazy to see where they're at in 10 years.
Yeah, 100%, man. I feel like they've got big things coming, and I know that's so easy to say nowadays. I feel like everyone bigs up, an artist or a platform or whoever it may be, and they're just like, yeah, big things coming their way. But if I'm gonna have to pick only a handful of people, I have to say it for like Carl Golly and even Nerve himself, and just the culture, the work ethic that they've created there, man.
And big things are, the term big things is a very broad spectrum as well. For me, a big thing is just making a solid impact on the culture that shapes and leads to good creativity within the culture, evolution. I think Australia has suffered with being stagnant at times when it comes to evolution of hip hop, and that's why you see especially a lot of the new waves that are coming through, they're blowing up so hard because things didn't change in Australian hip hop for so long that it's now kind of counterculture, and this other side's blowing up so massively because it was only one way. And it's been interesting. I've been watching heaps of interviews, and it's kind of made out to be like no one else was allowed into it. But it's just kind of how it was, you know what I mean? You had to be at the right time at the right place. Before social media, you had to know people within the industry. You had to, be the lucky guy that this one guy that runs a radio station said, yep, I'm going to play him for the summer. It was that sort of thing. You just, industry, it's the same with the acting industry, comedy industry. But, YouTube's changed everything. And like Lewis Spears, for example, Lewis Spears has done exactly to Australian comedy what Kerser did to Australian hip-hop. And he said, no, I don't need to go in your lanes. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to be independent. I've got all these platforms that I can use to the best of my ability. And he's just, gone and done it. And it's funny because I get to see the same parallels of the way that, the Aussie hip-hop industry, when Kerser first blew up, they were like, oh, who's this guy? We don't like this. He's not, he's creating his own lane, and that's not right because we've all waited in line for our turn. And it's the same deal with the comedy scene and the hip hop scene. And now as well, some people are going, oh, I don't like this drill movement, and it's like, well, they weren't allowed really in your lane, or they didn't fit into your lane, so what else did you expect them to do? They've gone and created their own lane. And I love that personally. I love and that's what will happen with all sorts of culture and evolution, because things will always evolve. We can't always, as nostalgic and as much as we cherish a moment in culture and history, we can't hold on to that forever.
Yeah. Let me jump in there real quick just before I lose my train of thought myself. It's interesting to the point that you made about, Australian hip-hop seemed to be so closed off, and it seemed to be kind of one way, this is how Australian hip-hop is made. And then, these groups that are coming through, whether they're doing drill or trap or rap, whatever they're doing, and they kind of carve their own. And as you said, what do you expect? They carved their own lane. They wasn't allowed into this lane, so they just made their own one, I feel like that's such an interesting conversation to have because... Go on.
No, you're right. It's not like they were not allowed. They just didn't fit in. And that's not on either side. That's just how it is. They didn't relate to it. You know what I mean? So.
Yep. And so you've got these guys that have made their own lane, and it's interesting to see the feedback that they are getting, because there's so many people that are like, oh my god, this group and that group and this artist, and look what they're doing, and they're representing the area and they're representing our people, and I think that's so sick. And then you've got, and it is a smaller group, admittedly, it's maybe a smaller, minority, but maybe a more vocal group that's then saying, but this isn't real Aussie hip hop. But what I keep saying to people is they're not making hip hop. They're making drill or they're making trap, as I said before. And same goes vice versa, you know? I don't think you can compare them too much. Just because they're both in Australia doesn't mean that you can make too many direct comparisons.
Yeah. For me, my person, like, I see it all as hip-hop culture, whether it be drill, grime, or anything. It's still hip-hop culture at its core, if you know what I mean. It's street culture. It's the music of the grind, of the hustle. You know what I mean?
It's subgenre of rap. They're all rapping. It's just different ways of going about that and presenting that.
I think I might have like a bit more of an old school kind of perspective, just in the regards of like, it's still, for me, it's just all hip hop. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's subgenres, but I like to think it's all hip hop. You know, and when I watch drill videos that I like, I'm like, I identify with it and like it the same way that I'd like a hip hop song. So for me, it's the same thing.
It's good to see someone like you, you know, good to hear someone from like you who has been about and been a part of the scene for a while.
You're frozen there, Chazza.
Oh yeah, you've frozen as well. There we go. You good? Try hold your phone back just a tiny bit, just so your face isn't so big on people's screens. There we go. Yeah. So what was I saying? What was I saying? I've completely lost my train of thought.
We're just talking about the banner of hip hop and subgenres within it.
Yeah. So when you've got hip hop, right, you look at the elements that make up hip hop. It's obviously MCing. You've got graffiti, which doesn't seem to be as big of a thing nowadays. Again, that seems to be more of a traditional practice that's still going on. You've got then like dancing, breakdancing, that kind of thing, which I guess in their own way, I mean, I doubt some people would agree with this, but you know, if you look at all like the TikTok movement and all of those things, that's their form of dance, you know what I mean? Like, and all of these little moves where you've got like the Mountie Bop or I don't know, fucking woes and whatever else there is, you know, and that's their form of dance. And then, you know, you look at things like fashion and things like that. Fashion is just something that's always changed over time anyway. You know what I mean? If you look at the fashion from the 70s, 80s, 90s going on, it's different every 10 years. And that's the same within this street culture, you know? At the moment, it's the cool thing to have the TNs and the designer clothing and this, that, and the other. And in 10 years' time, we're going to look back at it and be like, what the fuck is that? And then, you know what I mean? There's going to be the new trends and the new things in place. So I do agree with you. I think it is a stem of hip hop, but it's just a different way of presenting it.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
So, I mean, it's good to hear from someone like you who's obviously been about for a while and you're embracing this newer culture, you know, because I've seen and heard plenty of older heads obviously shit all over it. Like, why do you think that is? Why do you think that some people who are into more traditional Aussie hip hop don't like this newer wave?
It's just a matter of people don't like change, I think. Like, you got to understand that I kind of grew up as a teenager on the traditional Aussie hip hop. I was doing shows when I was like 17, supporting kind of established Aussie hip hop artists that had music and CDs in stores when I was a teenager. But there was never any opportunities for me outside of Tasmania doing shows or in making music. And then the a cappella battle rap movement started to take off worldwide. When Don't Flop started, I was watching Don't Flop when they were still doing car park battles, you know, and I was actually I used to communicate with her and Kruger back then. And this is like 2008.
Yep.
And I was just an avid, like, I love the freestyle battle stuff, and I watched Scribble Jam, and I watched it kind of all, like, the culture started to get stale, and that's when it evolved into the pre-written rap battle. Right? And so I was just kind of watching that firsthand, and then I watched Don't Flop, and I watched Grind Time, and everything like that, and I was sitting in Tassie going, this is crazy. And I don't know if you remember the World Rap Championships. Yeah,
I didn't obviously watch too much of it, but yeah, I'm aware of it.
Yeah, and there was a big final in New York. It wasn't Aaron Kruger. It was Aaron Archaic. They were the England finalists. 360 and Anecdote were the Australian finalists. They all went to New York. It really started to pop. and I was obsessed with it. And then I started hosting rap battles in a skate park in Tasmania,
Yeah.
pre-written ones, and so I got contacted to be a part of the first Got Beef event, which was Australia's first full pre-written a cappella battle event, and Thesaurus was there, and he was like the 2-time Scribble Jam champion, and you know, guys that I'd looked up to from America were all there, and then that was Kerser's first sort of big battle where he battled Zoned Out. 360 battled Keynote. It was a massive day for the culture, and it really blew up. And all of a sudden, I got offered to battle in Brisbane, offered to battle in Adelaide, and I started getting all these opportunities that were coming my way. And so that's where I really and I ended up battling 360, and I kind of really got a buzz off that.
Yeah.
And I used that buzz to travel the country, make friends within the music scene, make music as well. But it was the battle scene that really gave me that vehicle, you know. But the thing was, when that period of time happened, a lot of the traditional Aussie hip hop scene didn't like the idea of pre-written battles, and so when that was popping off, I know there were a lot of guys that going, "Who are these fucking toys with their pre-writtens doing battles?" Yeah. You know what I mean? And the funny thing is now, I'm friends with all those guys now, and they all respect me for my music because I contributed a lot more to the culture than just battle rap. And they still don't really like it, and it's cool. We just laugh about it. I did a podcast with a guy, Jake Biz. He's from a crew called 750 Rebels. They're a legendary Brisbane crew, and we were laughing on the podcast that coincidentally we were at an event, and him and his mates were booing my mates while they were trying to battle. And it nearly kicked off into a big punch on, you know what I mean? And we were just having a laugh. Because, you know, it's been nearly 10 years and we've all grown up, and who gives a fuck like now? You know? So I think that's why I embrace the evolution, because I know what it's like to be a part of a wave that was different. It was new. It was evolution of the culture. And I knew what it was like to have the traditional guys go, "Oh, this isn't good," you know, sort of thing. So whenever I see something new and fresh, even if I don't like it, I think it's a good thing, because evolution, you know, growth is always important. People need to grow, and as well as music. And if we don't grow, then fuck. What are we doing?
I hear you 100%, and I really like the point of, even if you don't necessarily like it, still embrace the fact that there's change and still support the people that are doing that, you know? I say it often myself. If I don't like something, that's just my personal taste. Like, there's going to be plenty of people, if not more, that do enjoy it. You know what I mean? And so I feel like, even if you don't like it, all right, that doesn't mean you need to still say it's the best thing since sliced bread, but still embrace the fact that there's majority of young people doing something new and trying to push the culture and push the sound forward, you know. Going back to yourself though, what came first for you? Was it battle rap or was it music, like hip hop? What kind of...
It was definitely music. For me, I was beatboxing before I started rapping.
Right.
And I used to do like beatbox sets with another mate that beatbox, so we'd perform as like a beatbox group. And then I was recording verses at the same time as I was learning to freestyle and then entering freestyle battles. But it was just at that point in Australian hip hop, unless you were making music that was aimed for Triple J, and Triple J is very different now compared to what it was. You know, it wasn't playing people with bars and wordplay. It was playing rap that suited indie Australian music, you know. And so, like, I remember that time I had songs on MySpace and I was recording tracks, but there was just no way to really get anywhere with it unless you were fitting into that niche. And then the battle rap movement kicked off, so I just saw that as my vehicle to get somewhere and just build a name, reputation. And regardless of, like, at the time I knew, I was like, well, if I can get around the whole country, battle everywhere, whatever I do in the future, I'll have a solid fan base off that. And so I kind of took the fan base that I built off battle rap, and then I joined a label called LMG and started doing more music. So it was battle rap was the vehicle that got me out there, and I was obsessed with it for those few years because it benefited me massively, you know. And all of a sudden I went from sitting in an island, and especially pre-social media, Tassie was a lot more cut off from the rest of the country than we are now. like, we didn't go over and do shows or have many mates that were rappers in Melbourne back then. We were just cut off. So once I saw that as my opportunity to get out, I just did that. I didn't even make music for 3-4 years just because I was like, well, battles are what getting me booked and flown across the country, so I'll do this,
Do you think it's okay for somebody to perhaps, be doing 2 or 3 different things, and clearly one of those things is bringing in the views, bringing in the attention, bringing in an audience and a fan base to them, which obviously then has a ripple effect on the other things that they're doing, For example, myself, like if I'm doing music and then I'm doing the reaction videos and I'm doing the podcast, obviously the reaction videos is what brings in the audience, but then that has a ripple effect on the things like the podcast, like my music, etc, etc. Do you think it's okay for somebody to double or triple down on that thing that is bringing attention to them, even if it does, do you get where I'm coming from? Like, and is that okay? Because I know some people, for example, myself, to be fair, I don't listen to too much of it, but I've had the odd person here and there say, but you only do the reactions because it brings in views for your music, and it's like, well, no, that's not the only reason, but I do acknowledge the fact that that does happen. Like, yeah, and I'd be an idiot for not promoting my music, and I'd be an idiot for not promoting the podcast because of that. I'm using the audience to promote it. I'm not force feeding it down people's throats, but it's there if you want to check it out. Like, what's your standpoint on that? Like,
I think it's fine, man. Who cares?
I mean, look, if you look at some of the biggest YouTubers that there are now, for example, like if you look at someone like KSI, for example, he's like gone on whatever the trend is of the year and got himself to the position he's in now, and I don't think he's going to be bothered by too many people saying, but you only did this because of the views and money, and it's like, well, it did kind of get him to the point he's at. Like, and there's plenty of examples of that within the music industry. I mean, look, some of your favorite rappers are only making a certain style of music because it's the most popular thing to do. So, I mean, I personally don't think there's anything wrong with, there's an
element of keeping it real. And, obviously, like, for example, with you doing your reaction videos, it goes both ways. You're consistently supporting, you're consistently promoting, you're pushing, you're reviewing. You might be able to get some traction out of it, but you're giving traction back, So, I mean, there's certain ways, like I know there's a few people that might think certain people are sellouts for what they do, and I think there is a definite line between doing something to pay the bills, enough to fucking do what you love. Like, you know what I mean? Like, for example, like my mate Lewis, he does sponsor spots where he'll do like a minute long thing about a VPN, whatever. I don't know, but I know that I've got to sit through that to enjoy the 20 minutes of the video that he's making and putting his time and effort into. And if he needs to do that just so he can afford to do that, then fuck yeah, I'll sit through it. Yeah, you know what I mean? At least it's not a fucking Woolworths ad on TV that we grew up watching. So, like, it's...
That is a very important thing. People sit there during adverts on TV, but you don't want to sit there for a 10 or 20-second ad from some of your favorite content creators. You got to keep in mind that advertisement money isn't going to the company or the TV. It's where, YouTube and the internet nowadays is cut out the middleman. You are allowed to get that, that payment goes directly to that person that you're supporting, and I think that's how it should be.
Straight up. I agree too. So, and I mean, like, we're in a very expectant, choosy part of technology, Like, I grew up thinking that getting McDonald's delivery is fucking a magical possibility that would never happen. And now, if my Uber app didn't work, I'd just be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
My McDonald's,
Or the driver's going the wrong way. You're like, this is a disgrace. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I get all for free, but yet I have to watch a 10-second ad. Like, it is, but I think but obviously, so people will sell out, man. I've watched people do it. Some people want to make that sort of music. My taste has changed over the years. Sometimes I want to fucking make some raw hip hop, but sometimes I want to make a banger that, the ladies are going to dance to in the club, because dancing with ladies in the club is actually fun. This
is what I'm saying. Like, it's all good to have your hood and mandem shit, but at the end of the day, if you have even just that one song that the girls enjoy. Listen, you're the one laughing at the end of the night.
Right. Yeah, I'd rather turn up with a bunch of chicks in the club than fucking sit around getting staunch with a bunch of blokes talking about fucking who's fucking warring with who. Fuck that. I'm over it. You know what I mean?
I hear you, man. I think ultimately, no matter what you do, I think. Excuse me, don't interrupt me. I think ultimately, if you give more than you take, then pause. I think as long as you give more than you take, I think that ultimately, if your intentions are pure, I think as long as you are doing it for the right reasons, go and do what the fuck you want. I think long term it will work out as long as you're doing it for the right reasons.
Fuck yeah, I agree.
So I don't know if you've. I'm pretty sure you have publicly said it before, but how did you meet Lewis?
Lewis was at one of Kerser's first album launch in Melbourne. But and then when I lived in Melbourne, we were part of a studio called LMG Studios. We were running a label out of that, and also it was like a production warehouse. And Lewis used to come down and edit his troll videos in his early days before he got into stand-up.
Yep.
But he's a good fella, man. He's one of my real good mates, and everything he's done with comedy, I've watched him, step by step build it. And last time I was at his warehouse, he was making phone calls to Dave Chappelle's manager. He's making moves, you know what I mean? He's got shit planned in the States. He's probably coming over to the UK soon. So, I'm real proud of him, bro. He inspires me, you know what I mean? Like, same with Kerser as well. I've been lucky to watch his journey, and they just inspire the fuck out of me with their work ethic.
I mean, because obviously earlier you drawn the comparison between the two. Obviously, Kerser doing it before and the motions and the steps that he took, and now you're seeing Lewis kind of do the same thing in his own lane in the comedy world and in that sphere. You know, do you feel like someone like Lewis as took a page out of Kerser's book at all, or do you think that's just how it's naturally fallen?
No, he definitely did. Did, and he'll admit that. He's a big Kerser fan. If you watch many of his videos, he'll have Kerser beats playing in the intro and the outro. Like, he pays heaps of homage to it because, and nobody in the Aussie comedy scene was hustling like rappers do. And Lewis saw the hustle and he went, this is what this shit's about, and he hustles shit.
I feel like that's interesting, man, taking a leaf out of hip hop artists, when we look at like the hunger and the hustle and the drive that you get from young MCs and young artists trying to do their thing. I feel like, that's definitely something that can translate over into other industries where there may not be that level of hustle and that level of motivation. So I feel like that's an interesting point, that he kind of took a leaf out of the page of someone like Kerser and out of the hip hop industry to help him elevate himself.
Straight up, man. And in my circle of people that I've known over the last decade, I'd say those two people are two of the most motivated that I've known. And not so much now. I've turned into it's over years of watching them doing it, and then having my own insecurities about not being motivated because we all procrastinate and then we get insecure about it. Of course. I didn't do this and do this, especially when other people are achieving around you. It was those guys, and watching them is where I learned my work ethic, and I'm very happy at where I'm at. I'm about to drop this album. I've got fucking boxes of pre-orders that I've been signing today. I'm very grateful for the support that I have. But I learned to build that off watching those guys build what they did. Because I think I didn't believe in myself as much. I just thought, I'm a rapper. I'm not going to put myself out there.
Yeah.
Man, when I met Kerser, they were still living in houses in southwest Sydney, and he built an empire. He looks after his family. He's one of the realest and one of the fucking humble people I know still. It's funny, a lot of people have these opinions or attitude, think he's got an attitude, but out of anyone, he's the one that's still the same as when I met him at the first Got Beef. So that's what inspires me, man.
No, I hear that, man. I feel like that's an interesting point because when you listen to Kerser's music, he comes across very cocky and very arrogant, and and talking to him myself, he's almost the opposite. He's still Kerser, he's still himself, but I agree, how he presents himself through his music is very different to how he actually is in person. And the reason that I don't get the fake vibe from him is because I've heard that, as you are one of many people that have said exactly the same thing, from artists to other managers, producers, directors. People have all said, like, Kerser's one of the most humble people they've ever met and spoken to. Like, an example of someone who gives more than they take.
He's just, he was confident, man. And, like, before him, there wasn't many people that were willing to say that they were the best or to put themselves out there like that. It was a very... Australia's got a bit of a history when it comes to just being kind of like, yeah, you're a dickhead if you think you're that good. You're a show-up. You know what I mean? Like, that sort of negative behaviour of, oh, what, you reckon you're good at something? So when he came out and he said he was the sickest, half of Australia went, yeah, this cunt is the sickest. The other one half went, oh, this cunt thinks he's the sickest. I don't know about this. the amount of times I've had to be at a party and some fucking shit rapper comes up to me and goes, oh, you mates with Kerser? I don't think he's the sickest. And I'm like, oh, don't you, mate? Like, you know what I mean?
And again, that's fine. If you don't think he's the best, that's fine. But just Kerser ain't gonna care about that. Kerser's just doing his thing, man. Like
in my experience, I saw a video of him saying he was the sickest in a car park, and then he lets me host his shows where 2,000 people are going sickest on some fucking gladiator shit. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, he's the sickest.
Yeah. I hear that, man. And he has created, I've said it many times before, he has created such a cult following. Like, his followers are built of different shit. I don't know what them man are on, but it's crazy. If I've ever said to in a Kerser reaction, podcast, whatever, that's not the best that Kerser's done. As I've said before, I've got death threats. I've got people saying they're going to fly over to the UK just to beat me up. I'm like... all because I said this wasn't his best. Like, yo, man, different shit.
I battled him, bro. I battled him. You should have seen my inbox.
I can imagine, bro. I can imagine.
It took him a few years to warm up to me. I'd be at his shows and they'd be looking at me like, aren't you the enemy? You know what I mean? But eventually, oh, no, they must be friends if he's here 3 years in a row. Like...
nah, this can't be fake. He's been around for too long.
Yeah.
No, man, Kerser's dope. Shout out to Kerser, man. But with the album, have you got any? What features have you got on the upcoming album?
Just my homie Danny. She's a singer from Launceston in Tasmania. I did a show with her a couple of years ago, and I always wanted to get her on a track, and it just never happened. And so the last song on the album, and it's probably, in my opinion, story-wise, it's the best song. It's called The Cycle. And coincidentally, when I was on my way to Perth to go record it with Cortex, I ran into her at Melbourne Airport. And I was like, hey, do you want to jump on this track? I've had you in mind for it. And she was like, yep, sweet. So, yeah, her name's Denny. She's really dope. And she killed it. She absolutely, like... I spent 6 months like writing and envisioning this track in my head, and it's come out exactly how I wanted it and wished it. So it's crazy, man, how much I really manifested this album, and like especially that Big Grills clip. Every little kind of visual has come out exactly as I pictured it as I was writing the bars. It's I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, man, good for you, man. That's amazing. So just the one feature, is there a reason why you haven't featured with other artists?
Just because I wrote it all in there. You know what I mean? Like, it was my story while I was in there. It was, what was happening to me every day is being reflected in the music. And because I did that journey sort of by myself, I didn't really feel comfortable sharing it with anyone musically, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, especially when it comes to verses and stuff like that. I mean, the chorus that Denny is featured on, that was like a part of the song. I just wanted her voice because it's fucking beautiful.
Yeah,
I
mean, she's still telling your story ultimately.
Yeah. So I wrote the lyrics for the chorus and wrote the song. So yeah,
I think it's great when. So go on.
But yeah, and it's all. It's definitely. I've never been too professional, man. I always wing a lot of shit. I'll
Yep.
just smash it out. I'll upload something at midnight, a video clip, and go, yeah, fuck it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
don't. Where this, I've really stuck to a schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really happy with it, and I'm really excited to see the response. You know, because as well, like the stuff that I put out, the cheeky sort of shit, I put
Mm-hmm.
out the aggressive shit. But I tell you what, when the deep shit
When
hits,
the
people are
conscious
gonna
shit,
know about.
yeah. I feel
When
like
that
that's
is,
something I've got to praise you on as well, because you know you dropped the Big Grills track and I was really fucking impressed with that, just from the video clip to the audio, everything about that track I love. And then when you dropped the Burgundy and Burberry, I wasn't expecting that. Like, even you hit me up at the day before that when it dropped and was just like, yeah, new one out, and I was just like, all right. And for some reason my brain just wasn't ready to hear like a Grammy Grills. I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah. Oh, I wrote that one with no beat, and I was pretty angry when I wrote it.
I could tell.
There's like heaps of staffing issue at the prison in Tassie, so I'd been locked in myself for like 8 days in a row,
Yeah.
and I was just fucking. I think they didn't bring my laundry bag back or something, so I've been sitting in the same clothes for 2 days, and I was just like fucking.
And that was a straw that broke the camel's back. Don't you didn't bring me fresh clothes. That's it, right? I'm writing some bars.
Yeah, that's it exactly. I just vented.
Man. Love it.
Yeah.
So you did that, and then I see you did the freestyle as well that you just dropped a couple days ago.
Yeah, so it's for a platform called Ozrap HQ.
Mm-hmm.
He had some issues with his channel just over the last few days, so we weren't able to drop it on his channel. But so I dropped it on mine.
Mm-hmm.
But if you listen and go follow Ozrap HQ, because he's building a good platform and he's a good dude. But yeah, so I've dropped that, and then now I'm just like getting all the CDs, everything ready to post out until release date, and I'm dropping a video clip on release date as well.
Just about to say, have you got any other singles leading up to the album, or?
Yeah, so this one's called "Would Have Been Here Now," and it's definitely the realest shit I've ever written, and probably the realest experience I've ever kind of been in. I ended up performing it. I did a concert when I was inside on New Year's Day.
Oh, nice.
They had like a PA system, and I dragged it out into the Oval, and I performed all the songs off the album, and yeah, it was a real positive thing because it's about a very negative situation, and yeah, I can't wait to put it out there. There's a lot of people very emotionally involved in the situation that it's about, and I'm hoping that it can make a positive impact on the community and on a lot of individuals.
Can I just say that is one of the most gangster things in the world, to do conscious rap in prison, like in front of everyone, like perform that in a prison yard full of inmates. Like, that is one of the most gangster things ever done.
Well, you wait till you hear the song, because it's it's a deep
crazy,
one,
man. Like,
and
all these people going on about chinging and splashing this and that. Yeah, go and open up your heart and emotion in front of a bunch of inmates. Yeah, go on, do that. That's real gangster shit, man.
Oh, bro. Emotions and slut drops. That's how you fucking win people over, mate.
That's how you get the women. Emotions and slut drops.
Yeah.
Right,
that's
so
exactly
really,
it.
it's confirmed now. So Wisdom's dropping, and then 6 months later you're gonna drop the mixtape. You know, with all the throwaway ones, and it's gonna be emotions and slut drops.
Well, as if 2 days after I did that gig, even the screws, which are the guards, were walking by going, "Big Grills."
When everybody sees you, they shout "Big Grills." There you go. It makes sense.
I was just like, well, this is a banger. It's going to go well.
Yeah, man. Nah, good for you, man. I can't wait for it.
Guards are fucking to me. Yeah.
Fucking, just last thing I want to ask you, real quick, is you did the freestyle for Ozrap HQ. What's your take on like all of these different Oz platforms, like promoting Aussie rap and things like
that? I think they are what they are. So long as, there's been a lot that have come and gone. There's genuine ones, there's ones that aren't. But I think it's a good thing. Like, THC TV definitely wasn't the first. Hustle Hard was one of the originals that kind of really started doing it. But I think it's a positive thing to build a hub in the culture at any point, and it's the hubs that people come together and then succeed out of. And if you look at like the grime hub, when everyone came together for Australian grime, it was a hub, and then people succeeded out of it. And the same deal with THC, like guys like Stretch One, you know, like he hasn't even done a show outside of Tasmania, and he's getting recognition all around the country just from this hub that I've built. So yeah, I think it's a positive thing, so long as people can stay at it and maintain it and continue to work, and also be positive, stay humble and positive, because as soon as it starts turning into tribalism, where it's like, well, no, this is my brand and that's your brand, and blah, 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 you know, and then it starts just fucking turning to shit, as always. And I've watched that happen a million times. So long as they stay humble and they're down to work and they're open with people and consistently put the work in, even when shit goes wrong and things fall apart, then I think it's a positive thing.
Do you feel like some people are in it for the wrong reasons, though? Do you think they're creating these hubs, creating these platforms, whether that be through YouTube, social media, whatever it may be, and they're doing it just for monetizing it, or?
Yeah, 100%. But I've seen a million like dickheads rock up that have heaps of money and they start throwing it around, and then all of a sudden they're trying to run the show, and it's just a power thing, you know. Like a lot of them might be just doing it for social power, for credit, you know. But those dickheads, their true colours always come out, and they end up copping a worse reputation than the good one that they'd ever tried to get, you know. So I think you're always going to deal with that, and any forms of society, you're going to have, you know, weird people that are power hungry because they've got short man syndrome, or they want to try and they you know, they don't feel confident with women, so they build this sort of shit. And I've had a lot of people that have hang off me and then tried to use me to their social credit, and then I find out they're running me down behind their back, or behind my back, you know, because they're like, oh, Greeley's my mate because he's on YouTube, and I've been through all that shit a million times, you know. So those people will always be around, you know. But
I think ultimately, long term, it will. If you have, as we said before, if you have the right intentions, if you're doing it for the right reasons, I think long term it will show who's in it. You know.
Exactly, it does.
For the right purpose.
And I know there's been times in the past where people have hated on me, and then I see them 5 years later, and it's changed because they saw that I wasn't just, you know, because I was pretty fucking, you know, big-headed and aggressive and arrogant in my fucking early 20s, and you know, I was running around the country getting paid to insult people. So I was, you know, where I clashed with people, and I see them 5 years later, and they realise I'm not just this dickhead disrespecting people or running around, that I actually did have good intentions. I just, you know, didn't really know how to show them at the time, I guess, you know.
Yeah. No, 100%, man. I hear that. Is there any last things that you want to mention? Any last things that you want to say or promote for the people?
Yeah, just fucking keep doing your thing, Chaz. You're a fucking weapon, bro.
I appreciate it, man.
And no, we appreciate you, bro. Australia does appreciate you a lot. And yeah, keep supporting the scene. Suss out, you know, everything that's going on, you know, between fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
Shit, there's too much to promote, you know. There's so many dope artists around the country. I'm going to go back to Tassie next month, and I'm going to do some crazy shit. I want to get like a posse track with myself, Dundee, Wombat, and Stretch One on it. And, you know, because we all live closer together, and, you know, I want to get back into the grind in Tassie and just do some good shit for the culture, especially when gigs open back up, you know what I mean?
100%, man. Sounds great. Appreciate you doing the podcast, man.
Thanks again for having me, Chaz. You're a legend.